Coming to you from Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, this is the Quinn Spinn. Hey now, and welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of the Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, the Quinn. At least that's how they know me on the show. I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. You just heard Revel 9's All I've Become, which has been our opening theme song since the great year of 2014. And it will be until the very end of days. And we're back here on the interview set at Helping Our Music Evolve in the heart of East Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm joined by the first ever 3-time guest to the Quinn Spinn in 9+ years. In any run, you're the first guest, non-co-host, to come back to the show 3 times. It's Foundation Mecca, who's a hip-hop artist and just multi-talented, hard-working individual here and just good member of our community here in Nashville. So, sir, thank you again for joining us for now the 3rd time.
Wow, that's impressive.
Well, to be fair, the 2nd time was kind of by accident.
Yeah.
It was after we recorded the Sunday Funday episode with Goldie and Sean, and the mics were still on, and we just started talking about life. And about 20 minutes in, we're like, this is another episode.
Yeah, why not?
And then I needed an episode a few weeks later, and we rolled it out.
Worked out.
So you ended up being the first 3-time guest on the show.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me and just, providing a platform.
Yeah, and even though it's only been like 6 months, there's like so much to talk about, right? Because you've released so much music. There's just been a lot happening, I think, in both of our worlds. So this will be a good opportunity to catch up. But before we do that, for those who haven't listened to a previous episode you've been on, I ask every guest of the show 3 standard questions, as you know. So let's remind the people, who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn for the 3rd time?
I am Foundation Mecca, and I am a healer and also the leader of a movement called H.O.M.E, which is healing people through hip-hop. Also 1/3 of Heru, which is a hip-hop group in Nashville that represents the golden era, but also pushes the healer, agenda and the healer instinct mindset to heal people through the music. Also, Alliance and affiliated member of B4L. Shout out to B4L. Also, one half of GR Frontline, me and my brother's group. Also, a part of the Sunday Funday crew as well. Sunday Funday's out right now. Y'all stream that.
What's that? It's more than 200,000 streams now on Spotify alone. Yeah,
I appreciate all the fans out there for streaming it. All the people who support the song. It's country hip hop, or country ghetto or country rap tunes, as Pimp C would say it. And I feel like that was important. We're from Nashville. We do the same thing. We do hip hop, but also we was raised on country music, like by default.
Right.
I usually listen to country music on my bus, like on the bus, like the bus driver will play country music on the way to the school.
Yeah.
On the way back from school, my pops used to play Elvis and country music when we went to sleep. So that's how I entrenched in country music. So I'm like, why not? But that's pretty much who I am, and my passion. You said what's the second one?
Yeah, what are your passions?
My passions is helping people through music and giving people like some type of gem or some type of inspiration through the music. But music is the passion as well. But healing people through the music as well is the passion. And also this like meeting new people through the music as a vehicle and seeing where it takes me. Also, I like cooking. People probably didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
One of my passions is cooking.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
It's so many things. I'm a foodie, so there's so many things I like to cook. But pasta is my go-to. Fish is my go-to, like salmon or tilapia. What else? What else I like to cook?
I know I kind of put you on the spot.
No, that was great. I love it. Steak. I like to cook steak, like sear it, all that good stuff. You're making me hungry, man. I don't think I had breakfast, but those are like some of my top favorites. Also tacos, and my sons, they like tacos, so I always cook it up. And,
who doesn't like tacos?
Yeah, I know, right? And ramen. I love making ramen from
Yeah.
scratch. Yeah, ramen for my kids. They love ramen. Like that. Yeah. Just like putting your own ingredients, ginger, soy sauce, all the good stuff. Yeah, so that's one of my passions as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I learned something today. And
Yeah, exactly. Dancing is one of my other passions, hidden passions. Love dancing, love, releasing through movements, creative movements. So yeah, and then why the hell would I want to be in why on earth would I want to be on the
either
Quinn
way,
Spinn?
I
Mostly because you provide a unique platform for people to express themselves, different types of people that normally wouldn't get interviewed from different walks of life. And it gives people opportunity to express themselves as creatives, artists, or whatever they do in their field, to be able to let the world know, like, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is my passion, this is where I'm headed, and this is like my community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're here to do, and thank you again for coming back.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
So in your first two appearances, we didn't really get too far into your background, your formative experiences, what led you to this creative path. So I'm curious to know, as I'm sure they are out there, what led you to a life of creativity? What inspired you to pursue music? What inspired you to pursue this world-aware healing aspect of art as well?
That's a good question. It's a lot of variables. I would say the first one was I had a challenge to write my first rap for my mom's boyfriend at the time. He was like a father figure, and I was like 9 years old. We were like in the projects, and he was like, "Write a song about Kool-Aid, and I'll give you $5." And I was like, "All right." Came up with a song about Kool-Aid. I don't even remember the rap, but I wrote it, and then it was like a whole page long, and I was like, I like this. For me to write my first rap and to be a page long, it's like, I must really like this. So that was like the first, like, oh, then listening to like music like NWA. I know I'm fucking young, but NWA, Tupac, The Roots, a lot of West Coast music at the time. Crisscross.
I missed the bus.
Yeah, the Brat, Missy Elliott, and stuff like that. So it was music like that that inspired me, especially Tupac. And then I went to middle school and poetry English class, and my teacher, I still remember her name, Miss Robichaud. Shout out Miss Robichaud out there. Introduced me to poetry, and that changed my life because she introduced me to like Raisin in the Sun. My mama introduced me to Tupac books like Rose Out of Concrete. Miss Robichaud introduced me to like Langston Hughes, stuff like that. So I was never introduced to poetry in that form, and that just changed my life. And I started writing poetry. My big cousin did music and introduced me to like how to write raps, how to write a 16. And then I got into that aspect, and I'm like, oh, I can really try to rap now. And my only thing was articulation, because I had the vocabulary, I had the flow, I just didn't have the articulation to say the flow, say the words. So I started working on that and sharpening my sword. And then later on, I started noticing music shifting into like a whole different other frequency. And it became more about murder, more about drugs, more about violence, which I was like cool with when I was younger, because it was like, that was music. That was gangster music. That's what I grew up on. But then it started getting real like, this is all it is now. And it's like the percentage of good music and conscious music started to dwindling. And I was like, that's interesting. And then I had this thing with my brother, a group called GI Frontline. We still got the group, but we kind of do our own thing. And then my mom's boyfriend at the time was like, he was managing us, and he was like, try to do music without cussing. And that was a challenge, write music without cussing.
Right.
And once I did that, I started filling those cuss words with other vocabulary words that would expand my vocabulary. I started reading the dictionary, and we was like going the gospel route. That didn't work out too good because we almost got to deal with Lionsgate at the time, which was cool, but it fell through. But by divine time, divine grace, because we was meant for something else. So once I started writing with no cuss words, it started introducing me to new worlds of how to introduce music. And it was like, oh, pay attention to your words, what your words are saying. Like Tupac said, don't listen so much, listen to what they're saying in the music, not just to the beat. Listen to what the actual message is, because words are powerful. Words are spells. Words are impeccable. So it's like, what am I saying? how can I resonate? How can I make it stick to somebody's brain? How can I inspire? Then I met Adeli, which is my partner in rhyme, and I met Conscious Beats, our producer, which is my cousin now. Found out years later, and he started producing music that's like 528 hertz, which is the love frequency, which you can kind of like influence, just like they manipulate sound and they change the chord of music and how music should sound with rock and roll, and rock and roll music is like on a different frequency. And hip hop music is on a different frequency. Gangster music is on a different drill music is on a different frequency.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't even think I knew that.
Yeah. So 528 hertz is like, okay, this is the love frequency. Now you can put it in music, and you can tune it to that frequency. And then we start changing our lyrics. Like, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about something relevant. We're going to talk about something positive. We're going to talk about something uplifting. And we're kind of like the rebels now. We're kind of like the punk artists now.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, gangster music, like country music was in, then gangster music was the punk music, right? And then that took over in the 90s, and now gangster music is the norm because it's pop music now.
Right.
And the be conscious now is the punk music. To be aware is the punk music.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I do feel I'm optimistic about a shift coming back toward consciousness, toward self-awareness. I mean, we're seeing it in society. We're seeing it with the increased focus on mental health in society, on self-care, on just spirituality and how we're showing up in the world for ourselves, how we're showing up in the world for each other. Like there's been this big movement, I think, since 2020 in particular, where I think people are tired of the manufactured, the superficial. Like people want to get real, and people want to address real issues and heal. There's a lot of healing that I think we realized we needed over the course of the pandemic. It just feels so different from like when I moved here end of 2018, the first full year 2019. Like it was kind of like, for me, this ignorance is bliss, like victory lap. I'm in Nashville. And then 2020, like we all had that look in the mirror, ready or not, like the world slowed down and we were left to sit with ourselves for a while. And it can be very challenging to have that look in the mirror, but I think that's starting to really reflect in art. And certainly you guys are leading the charge. I remember 2020 was the year I met you guys right here on this stage. There was the Heel Hop fundraiser live stream that we produced here. And that's when I became aware of Heru. And then all of you guys, by proxy, in the individual projects. And there is just such this, there's such this shift taking place. That's really encouraging. I don't know if you've noticed that too.
Yeah, I definitely noticed. I felt it more before I learned about it. Like I was going to festivals, and I always remember like the feeling of everybody coming together on the same frequency, same mindset, same positive energy. Same. Like almost everybody was almost on the same accord at this festival called Maypop Fest. And it was interesting because it was like I was with my tribe. That's what it felt like. Yeah. And then after like you said, COVID, it reminds you to go inward. So you had to go inward regardless. If you try to go external, it was nothing to go external to.
Right. There was nowhere to go.
no clubs.
We're all stuck in our houses.
Unless you was in Atlanta, there was no clubs, to go to or whatever. And you couldn't go to, you either had to go to your vices or you had to go internal and meditate on yourself and reflect. And that's what I did. I reflected and just like pound out music like crazy. Like just went into my hyperbolical time chamber and just like time stopped. So I was like, this is the perfect time to just express. And that's how I deal with the COVID. I just literally went in the studio and created.
Yeah, it's amazing once you strip away all the excesses, what you're left with, and like you realize whether or not you're happy with that. And I think we all went through that. Like for me, I don't know if I would have left corporate America at the end of 2020 if I wasn't just sitting at home, working from home, day job, and then this is my night job, and essentially having the chance to weigh the two together and be like, which one do I like better?
Facts.
Obviously this, which is why I'm still doing it.
Your passion called out louder.
Yeah. And it was just one of those, like the beating of the drum just getting louder and louder, like make the jump. And there was so much fear, because it's easy when you're just flying all over town, or flying all over the country like I did in 2019.
Yeah.
And you're not really forced to think about things. It's just like, life's good right now. I'm not asking any questions.
Yeah.
But then you dig deeper and it's like, but is this what I want? Is this how I want to build my life? And the answer was no. Now, I miss the corporate America money. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
But I value my time more, and my time's going to go and make that hopefully tenfold.
Tenfold, yes.
So it's just one of those things where it's like the looks in the mirror and the way that time has transformed us has, it's still having these ripple effects, even a couple of years in, and it's going to continue to. I think we're going to continue to see that in people's art, in the way people approach life, in the way people approach business, and the way you've approached it is very prolifically. This year alone, since Sunday Funday, you've released an EP, you've released a whole bunch of singles. Codes in particular is, I think, upwards of 27,000 streams on Spotify. That produced with Ian Osborne here as part of the Light League
Shout out
project.
to Ian, yeah.
And let me tell you something about Ian. Every single person I talk to who's worked with Ian talks about not only his brilliance in the studio, but his ability to just pull the best out of it.
Yeah, he's one of the, I would consider him he's a great. He will be renowned as a great once that the world knows about Ian. Ian Osborne, who we're talking about, lead music. He's a dope producer and a dope guide in the studio. He's a great guide. He know how to guide you to that place. I get to exercise my full potential that I didn't see when I'm just in the studio by myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the studio every day, all day by myself. So it's good to have somebody who see that and can pull it out and knows where your strong suits are. Yeah. And he knows how to strengthen that core right there inside the artist. I know where I need to go. He's great at giving directions. So yeah, it's always a pleasure working with him in the studio.
I've heard nothing but great things from every single artist I've talked to who's worked with him. And he's
brilliant.
Yeah, he's brilliant and super nice guy.
Yeah.
And
super duper producer too.
Yeah. Incredible. Everything he rolls out.
Yes.
Everything that has his name on it, it's top notch.
Yeah. And then we just make some moves with codes. So we just looking for, when to get picked up. But yes, but I feel like anything we make together is going to be magic. Yeah. I don't know what it don't even matter what genre it is, because I can go any genre, he can go any genre, and that's what makes our magic works. And we're both cool. We both on some nerdy shit when we get in the studio. We both always on the same level. I got this idea, and we're open minded. Yeah, we don't go in it got to be this way. No, we let's try that, because I can do different vocal inflections with my voices. Right, people's you should do voiceovers because I have different voices. So I'm let's try this vocal. Let's try this vocal take. He's that was cool. Let's do that. Forget what we had. We're not married to one idea. Right. We just try everything, Pharrell and Pusha T or whoever, in the studio. So yeah, I think that's what makes our magic. Yeah. Well,
you follow the intuition. Yes. You follow the trail where it leads, and sometimes you end up somewhere completely different than you started. More often than not, I would say. Things
sometimes better than the original.
Yeah, and it helps having that person to pull the best out of you, to pull your own versatility out of you, so you don't stay in that box. To get you thinking outside. And versatility wise, you can pretty much do it all. Yeah,
I appreciate it.
As an MC, on the Feels Good to Be Alive EP, there's My Love, which is this Caribbean pop tune.
Afrobeat type of vibe, yeah.
Yeah, and so you released that right after I got back from the beach. And I'm shoot, man, I wish I had this a couple weeks ago.
Hey, go back. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It just I was missing the beach pretty hard.
Man,
I'm just all right, just close my eyes and think about it for a second.
There you go. Yeah, in the sun. Yeah.
Yeah, you could just hear it on the boardwalk at the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, it's funny about that track. I was I always make different shit, and then I come out let me see how it sounds after I do this certain thing to it. But I have been working on maybe 2 or 3 other Afrobeat songs, and I was let me just get confident about my singing voice. Yeah. I always had a doubt or fear about putting my singing voice out there because I'm known as an MC. The persona is rapper.
Right.
Just like the Sunday Funday, wasn't that fearful of that one because I had a squad behind me.
Right.
It was a team effort. It was a
Mhm.
movement. Still a movement. Still pushing it. But now it's like let me exercise different parts of me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work on my singing voice. Like I have to drop it sometime. I have
Yeah.
to introduce it at some point.
Yeah.
Why not do it through Afrobeat, which is popular right now, and see how the response is, so I know what to do next time. It's like fail fast, so you succeed further.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like you got to take that jump.
Yes.
At some point, you just got to take the jump. You got to try. And I think the track came out really well.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. That means a lot because I was not sure about the track. Just dropped it. Just like being spontaneous, sad type of stuff. Yeah.
Well, sometimes you got to do that. You know. Yeah. And you don't know what's gonna hit. You don't know what's gonna resonate with people. But you just throw it out there.
Yeah.
And like I'm at the point 9+ years in where I've kind of realized like no one thing is going to define you good or bad.
Come on, man.
So you might as well just try it. You might as well throw it to the wall and see what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's pretty much what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, see where it leads. And like beyond the EP, of course, Codes, Radar earlier this year, One Man Army. Like you've released so much music.
I haven't realized that. Yeah.
And like you give it, Powerball just came out as well, and
Mhm.
you've like given people so many different shades of you and your ability, and that's not even talking about the Heru stuff. Like pretty much any style of hip hop you can do, and you're pretty well versed in. And now you're getting more into this like Afrobeat, R&B, pop realm as well, and it's really exciting. And country, even with Sunday Funday, like it's really exciting to see an artist like not limit themselves to any one thing.
Yeah,
because that's the type of person, that's the type of artist I think endures is the one who's able to reinvent, still keep things within certain parameters of this is who I am.
Yeah.
But who I am is very complex, and there's all these different layers, and there's all these different things I could do. Think of the artists that endure. They're able to adapt. Yeah. They're able to evolve. They're able to speak to certain moments in time. And I think you're well on your way to enduring, for the long run because of your ability to switch things up and experiment and create different sounds.
That's what it's about, man. I was talking to somebody last night at the show about, he's like, so much versatility on your show. And because my set list was just everywhere, but it was still my own sound.
Yeah.
Like I was in EDM, I was in house, I was hip hop, it was boom bap, it was like trap, it was every different genre you can name, but it was still in my own realm. Like you said, it was still part of me. And I was like, it's more so me creating my own sound. So like a Kanye, so any sound you put your sound to, it's like it becomes you. It's like you embody it.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, it's like, oh, that's just Foundation Mecca. They don't put a genre to it because I genre bend all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really like being in the box.
Yeah.
So I try to do everything to be out of the side of the box that I possibly can. So I throw an Afro beat. I throw people for a loop. Even my fans, they're like, I didn't expect this. That's good because the next album you may not expect this. Whatever I come out with, so you're not super surprised. What I can come up with. So
at that point you become the common thread. You become the trend. There's a sensibility of you that is the undercurrent to all of this. And some of my favorite artists have that, just across the board, across genres, where like it sounds different from album to album. You never quite know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
But what you are going to get is something that they wanted to make.
Exactly. Exactly.
And like, I appreciate that because you can tell when it's forced. You can tell when it's forced and people are trying to grab at straws and people are trying to just stick with a trend. And like, it's interesting because I feel like more artists that kind of dive into that part of the industry where it's like, let someone else tell me what I need to create are now coming out of that. Maybe a post-COVID thing as well, where it's just like, I was making all this manufactured music that just wasn't me, that wasn't representative of my artistry. And now they're getting to the point where it's like, I'm going to create what I want. And that's inspiring because the next thing they release is going to be fire. Whatever. After they break that whole like industry manufacturing of their image, of their sound, once they get back out on their own, it's like, this is going to be the most honest record they've ever made. And like, it builds that anticipation. That anticipation, I think, usually takes, it pays off,
That's real. Like you said, a good thing right there about manufacture. Like they spend so much time in the fake bubble world that as soon as that bubble's popped, they're exposed to like the other stuff that makes the music real. Yeah. And it's like, I did that like during COVID, and I learned myself. I learned my own style, learned my own sound, what I'm comfortable with, like what trends I don't want to follow. Right. You know what I'm saying? What trends I want to create. Especially experimenting. every time I get in the studio, I'm literally experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it comes out like Codes or comes out like a Sunday Funday, great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I'm just mostly experiment. So the stuff that I put out is mostly like 100 songs in,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 50 songs in.
Yeah.
And some of these songs are just dropped. Like I may drop Codes because it's fresh and I'm feeling really good about it and I just want to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
Then some songs may not come out to 3 years later, like Powerball.
Mm-hmm.
That was done like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the songs are, you know, so songs I'm like, I feel real good about. I just
Yeah.
want to drop it right ahead. So I think it's about trusting your instincts,
Mm-hmm.
trusting your intuition, and being yourself authentically because nobody can be you better than you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And time and place and knowing what the catalog needs.
Yes.
You know, knowing what, you know, your artist, what output needs to kind of diversify itself, you know, like, and I think every artist needs like a Codes or a Sunday Funday, something that has that commercial appeal to bring people in.
Yep.
To the rest of the catalog. We've been talking about this.
Yeah.
We were talking about this out here last week, and
Yeah.
that's when we decided, you know what, I have studio time. Let's just go do a podcast about it. Like, you know, the song, in so many instances, the song that brings me into an artist is the song that I forget is by that artist. Because like you dig into so much of the back catalog, you know, and you explore it, you know, and you really get in the weeds of if you're a music lover, you get in the weeds of the intricacies and like the different sounds, the different phases they've gone through in their artistry, the ways they've experimented. The example I gave last week when we were talking was the Dirty Heads, because they released Lay Me Down with Sublime with Rome back in 2008. Then it took off, that album, Any Port in a Storm, took off for them a couple years later. And like, I like that song, but I almost forget it's by them because like there's so much they've released in the decade plus since that like has really grabbed me to the point where it's like, oh yeah, Lay Me Down, that was the song that brought me in. It's a great song, but like the way they've been able to diversify their sound, like through hip hop influence, through even like roots and like folk singer songwriter influence at times, like they've been able to diversify their catalog so much that it's like you had that point of singularity. And it's more exciting for me as a music fan to see everything that has branched off into.
Yeah. That's how I feel about Kanye West. And I feel like Pharrell's one of those guys too. He can just go any part of the universe and pull from it. And it just creates a bigger world for you. It's like almost like as an artist, you're creating like I told my girl, it's like almost creating a spaceship.
Yeah.
You're like a sound spaceship. So you can go anywhere in the universe with the spaceship. Where do you want to go? And once you create this universe, its own universe, you'll be like, oh, I can go here with it. I can go to this planet. I can go to this planet. I can go to this planet. Like for real, nobody heard Happy in the 2012s when he took over radio. Neptunes took over the radio.
Right.
Nobody heard that coming from Pharrell till years later. Like now he's on Oprah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you never know what's going to come out. Like I tell everybody, like Pharrell uses great example about being in the studio. He's like, always go to the studio. Always go to the library with your library card because you never know what book you're going to pull out.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the studio. You'll never know what kind of magic you're gonna pull out.
Yeah.
That's why I start doing like one song a day for 100 days. That challenge. I challenge myself. So I'm gonna do one song a day for 100 days, whether it's producing, writing the song, recording the song, whatever. I'm just gonna do it. And that got me in the habit of this being in and catching the magic. Because you don't know where it's coming from. Yeah. It's coming from the heavens, the source, some infinite power. But you gotta be there. They pull it. They get it. You know, they get it from the higher source.
And you just have to let yourself be in the flow of it. Like you can't force anything. No. You have to let it come to you.
It's not your song anyway. It's literally from the universe.
Yeah.
It's all you're doing is channel it, and it's being present to channel it, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you just got to get in there and play in the sandbox. Really, you know, if you go in. I feel like a lot of songwriters, especially when they're starting out, like make this mistake, like going in, like I need to get this song out of this right. I need to get this song, you know. I need a song that does this for me. When you go in and try to force it again, people know that, you know, and it's just letting it be an organic process. It's creativity because it allows you to create. Yeah, and it's a blue sky. It doesn't need to be in this box. As a matter of fact, you know, that tunnel vision will stunt your growth as a creative, whatever your
Man.
medium, I think. Pharrell's an interesting case though, because like I remember the early 2000s,
Yeah.
like the NERD stuff,
Yeah, nerd.
Rockstar, like that alternative hip hop, like vibe of that whole project. And then he comes back like a decade plus later with Happy.
Reinvent it.
And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's like totally something out of left field you would never expect from Pharrell Williams, but it worked.
You can't never stop making music because you don't know what your next hit song is going to come out to. Like, you don't know what like it's going to come from. He probably wasn't expecting Happy. Literally.
Right.
He probably just received it from the universe. It's like, download it. Oh, okay, this is what we're doing today.
Yeah.
And then just start getting some inspiration, making the tambourines, doing the shakes, calling the choir. You know, it's just, and that's how the flow happens. Like, he didn't force it. He was just there to catch it.
Yeah.
It could have been easily a Bruno Mars song.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That could have very easily been a Bruno Mars song.
Exactly.
Especially that era of Bruno Mars.
Come on.
You know,
and he's doing like Bruno Mars, he's bringing the funk era back.
Oh my God.
Like,
yeah. I love Silk Sonic.
Where did that shit come from? Like, where did that like magic come from? Like, to do 24 Karat. Nobody expected that from Bruno Mars, but yet he still brought it.
And then him and Anderson .Paak together, it's a lethal combination. I'm still playing that album on repeat.
Bro, it's still classic music, like timeless.
Absolutely timeless.
Timeless. And you could play it 20 years from now, you could play it in the 70s.
Yeah.
It still would make sense.
Yeah. And I don't know what my favorite track is on that album because it changes.
It
changes.
It changes every day. It depends how your mood is.
Yeah. Like Fly As Me is a classic. I come back to that a lot. Smoking Out the Window. After Last Night is just a showstopper,
man. And then like you think about the skating community, like how it's like literally intertwined with the skate community that's coming back in like full front, like the roller skating community and music like skate, you know what I'm saying? Like that stuff is over, like, you know, you hear it everywhere now, and it's like it's supposed to be here because it's timeless.
Yeah, those harmonies all over that album. The vocals are off the charts.
And them two make sense.
Yeah, they do.
They're the geniuses, both geniuses.
Creative geniuses, and their voices complement each other very well.
Yes.
You know, they can both bring it. I mean, Bruno's the showstopper, you know, as far as that range. Like, I wish I had a shred of that man's vocal talent. It's unreal. But like Anderson .Paak, you know, I think is so under the radar to a lot of people as the just absolute musical genius that he is.
Producer, writer, singer, rapper,
multi-instrumentalist. Like, I had gotten into him before Silk Sonic, just a little bit before 2020. When he did Come Home with Andre. And diving into that album, like, I've been sleeping on this guy. Like, I had heard his name, and I'm like, oh wow, I've really been sleeping on this dude. Like, he is incredible.
My introduction to Anderson .Paak was Malibu.
Okay,
yeah, Malibu, and then Dr. Dre album Compton. He was like pretty much all over that album. And then I would start listening to him with Kendrick and all this other like earlier stuff before Malibu.
Yeah, that
I didn't know existed, and I was like, this guy's like, he's incredible.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It doesn't matter where you come in because you can always go back and enjoy you know, what came before, and you can look forward to what's to come from an artist. You know, like everybody's got their entry point. You know, I think of my favorite band on earth is Our Lady Peace. I came in when they released Gravity, which was probably their most commercial album, most commercially successful in the US because they're from Canada.
Wow.
That song Somewhere Out There drops when I'm a freshman in high school. And I'm like, oh, I like this. But then like you listen to the back catalog and it's a lot weirder than that album, but it's like, I dig it. I'm like, wow, I wish I didn't miss out on this when it was a thing, but like you're able to go back and enjoy it.
So you think that the consistency of an artist creates that mass sound, like for the masses, like that sound, like you said, it was making weird stuff from the beginning, and then the masses finally caught up to that sound on Gravity.
Well, I think on Gravity the sound had changed so much because like they were post-grunge felt like an experimental. Rain Maida's vocals were very much, and I mean this in a good way, like all over the place in a way like where he was able to just like go from falsetto to chest, and he utilized that all over those first 3-4 albums. The Spiritual Machines album, which is Spiritual Machines Part 1 now because they came out with Part 2 earlier this year, was right before Gravity. And that I think is like, you know, the finest, one of their best albums, and certainly the best of that era to me, because that's where like the commercial direction they were about to go in and the experimentation from their previous
Mhm.
records like came into this like perfect melting
Oh,
pot
that's beautiful.
on Spiritual Machines. The song "If You Believe" on that album, one of the best rock songs of all time. I
Really?
don't care who you are. It's incredible. So underrated. I'm mad they never play it live, but that's beside, one day we'll hear it live again. But but from there, like that's another band. Like, you know, they went that, you know, more commercial route on Gravity, and then from there started to have this sense of experimentation creep back in their music all the way up to Spiritual Machines 2 now, which has like a lot of like dance rock elements to it, you know, like a little bit of Franz Ferdinand sensibility, more programmed like tracks and that kind of thing, but like it's still them. It's still what it is it's an update of Spiritual Machines 1, which is based off The Age of Spiritual Machines by Ray Kurzweil. And so like
it's a book?
Yeah, so Ray Kurzweil made a whole bunch of predictions in the late 90s about like where we were heading with technology, AI. 86% of his predictions in that book were correct to within 1 year. And and he does voiceovers on both of the albums. So that's how he starts Spiritual Machines too. The Age of Spiritual Machines had 147 predictions. 86% were corrected within 1 year. And then it just drops into Stop Making Stupid People Famous.
I have to dive into that like after this podcast.
Yeah. and now like he's got a whole bunch of like predictions about universal basic income, you know, the Turing test, like all these things that are, you know, it's a more optimistic album on part 2 than part 1 about technology, because it seems like the band has accepted like that technology is like a part of the picture going forward.
Yes.
Where I think there was a little more like debate about it on part 1.
Sure.
And now it reflects in how the band carries themselves now, because now they're into the crypto Web3 stuff,
Beautiful.
you know, NFTs.
So they're ahead of the game.
Yeah, they're on Discord, and it's like it's leading to, I think, a bit of a resurgence for them in terms of public consciousness, because they're getting in on that.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of using it as a hindrance, they're using it as an actual propel system.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you could complain about things are changing and I can't keep up, right? You know, and I get in a bad habit of that. I still haven't really adopted TikTok. You know, or you can realize this is where things are going, so I better go with it.
Yes,
you
or
know?
be ahead of the curve, like just like the gold mines, like when people the gold rush, when people was rushing to get the gold mines, like be the guy with the picks and axe, you know. So when it's time for the gold rush, you already ahead of the game.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
and I was like felt like that in 2019 when I minted my first NFT. By myself, and nobody knew what an NFT was in my city, or I didn't know anybody who knew it, but like a couple people. And I was like, okay, let me mint my own NFT. Like I heard about this Web3, did my research because I'm a geek, and I'm like I Google everything and YouTube everything and research everything. And I'm like, what is Web3? What does it do? And how does it reflect for music? How is it going to impact music? So I'm like 2 years ahead, 3 years ahead before like everybody started posting about NFTs and scamming and whatever they was doing with NFTs. And now it's becoming like a platform where I'm involved with people on Twitter about NFTs. Like I got homie in the LA, shout out to Mr. B. He's into like NFTs and creating a platform for artists to merge with NFTs and Web3 and be ahead of the curve instead of like, I'm just doing streams.
Right.
But streams is not gonna pay their bills, and streams is not gonna make that like direct artist fan connection like an NFT when you can like get people involved in your movement.
And that's exactly what it is.
And actually get paid as an artist for your art. And you can collaborate with other artists and bridge that gap between artistry and music.
Yeah.
Which is missing like a little bit, but now it's coming back.
And maintain ownership, but also give your community something to hold on to as well.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's like the community. Yeah. Building community. That's the point of Web3. Web 2 was like, here's all my stuff. Go follow, go like, go share, you know? Web 3 is like, okay, like here's why you want to be a part of this community. Giving them a sense of ownership. And, you know, there's always going to be resistance to these new trends, right? Recorded music itself was resisted by some of the greats of that era. John Philip Sousa was dead set against recorded music. He thought it was going to kill the art of being a professional musician.
Wow.
Like there were some wild things about recorded music.
I didn't know that.
Back when they were first able to capture and record music, that like live musicians were shaking in their boots and protesting it left and right because they thought, well, there's no point in going to hear live music if you could just record it. Well, you can record it and sell it and then go on tour and
Come
people can hear
on,
it
look
live.
what they're doing now. You know,
But-
Metallica, look at how many tickets they sell in a show.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, you
Yeah.
know, and now you see how wrong he was. you
Yeah.
know.
But it's amazing like how
Wow.
people will resist things and just immediately jump to it's a scam.
Pessimistic type of stuff.
Yeah. And like you could tell who's going to get left behind
Yes.
by their outlook on
And there's
that.
a lot of people who still think NFTs is a scam and Web3 is a scam, only because they haven't did the research.
Right.
Like, you fear what you don't understand.
Yeah.
And I talk to young people who think it's a scam.
Right.
And I talk to older people who think it's a scam. So I'm like, we're in that shift right now where we're about to enter a whole nother world of awakening, about to end up into a whole nother world of technology and into a whole nother world of community and ecosystem and environment. Like, okay, what are we doing for the earth? How does the NFTs and technology benefit the earth? How does the technology benefit the people who's involved and the community is involved, like the fans with the artists, peer to peer?
Yeah. And, it gives us the power back.
Yes.
Because the systems that have been in place for so long
Yep.
have not given us any power,
No, at
as
all.
we know. And I think in general, the 2020s have gotten off to a rough start,
Yes.
societally. But I think we're going to look back on this decade as the change that we needed. All said and done, decades from now.
We was doing too much. We had to set our asses down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, it was literally, as humans, we was doing way too much.
Yeah.
Like, there was a time that, like, the earth is changing. We're changing because we are a result of the earth. And we're organic, just like the earth is organic, and we're part of the earth. So I feel like the earth is changing, technology is changing, we're changing, regardless if we know it or not, or we want it or not, and it's inevitable. So it's like, go with the current or be crushed by the wave.
Exactly. I love the way you put that. And I feel like, any period of prosperity is going to come from a period of struggle, and 2020, 2021, 22 to a degree, between the pandemic, the social unrest, the war, all this stuff, it's building us up to find a better way.
Yes.
And again, you don't grow without first going through some challenges, right? If everything's just easy, crashes tend to happen after things are easy. You think of the Roaring 20s, and then the stock market crashes, and we go into the Great Depression.
Facts.
Because the Roaring 20s, everybody was just living it up, the flapper culture,
You throw anything at the wall, any idea, it sticks.
Yeah.
It's successful. But now it's going to that time where you have to be really creative and innovative. You can't just throw anything at the wall now.
Yeah, we're setting society up for what the next 50 years of society is going to be.
Come on.
And we have that opportunity now through technology to connect with more people than ever, to build community better than ever, to share messages better than ever. Now is the time to be an independent creative.
Yeah. This is kind of off topic, but on topic. I heard through the grapevine they're writing another Bible for
Really?
after COVID, AC, BC.
Really?
After COVID. Because if you think about, we're entering into a whole nother era. So if you think about the era before that, before COVID, it looked totally different than now. Just like 9/11. When 9/11 happened, the whole culture changed worldwide.
Yeah.
So you think about that impact and you think about a COVID impact. It literally shut the whole world down.
Yeah.
So it's like a new era, a new chapter in a human history.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, what the Bible's already written. You got to start recording new stuff for the next 100 years of people, or the next 1,000 years of, the next centuries, to come for their kids, our kids, future. Like, what is that going to look like? How are we going to tell this story? Not through media, like news. You're going to tell it through a book.
Right. Through an account of what happened.
An account of what happened, the documentation of it.
Right. And it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that account changes over time. Just like the Bible in its certain phases has changed over time.
Kanye West is going to be Yeezus in there.
And Jesus said to his disciples.
Sunday service.
But yeah, it just becomes one giant game of telephone after a while, honestly. But
True.
But it was such a moment in time, COVID. Like, when else can we think in human history where we've been this, much of a global community and the entire world shut down?
Wow.
There's no other time in human history where that happened.
No, and it just boosted social media and internet connection.
Yeah.
It made the world smaller. Like, it like zoomed in, like,
absolutely.
You know, and you can connect. You actually was connecting to people more so online
Yeah.
than ever before. Zoom got
Mhm.
bigger. I'm sure their stocks went up.
Oh, absolutely.
Facebook Live
Uh-huh.
went up. So
Mhm.
their stocks went up. Instagram Live, TikTok blew up. It made like it
During
was
the pandemic, TikTok
perfect
blew up.
timing.
Yeah.
TikTok was introduced damn near through the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like it blew up
Mhm.
immensely. YouTube,
Yeah.
visual content
Mhm.
became more popular.
Yeah.
So for artists, that was like, I got all these videos in my hard drive.
Mhm.
This is a perfect time to drop it because everybody's looking at their phones.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's like create what you can create and get it out there in
Yes.
the world. Like I remember when things first shut down, like those first couple months, we started getting so many more submissions at UMC because people didn't have anything else to do but record and release music. They
Right.
couldn't go out and play shows. You know,
Nope.
most people weren't seeing their families or
Yeah.
friends or whatever. It's like they're holed up. They're just going to record, even if they're just recording demos. Like we got so many more submissions because
Wow.
people just started creating. I think another thing this all did though was like, yeah, it made the world smaller, but it also, I mean, at least for me, made me appreciate the opportunity for in-person connection more.
Yeah,
You know,
me too.
it's the pandemic plus the fact that I'm getting older and therefore everyone in my life is getting older. So it's like, you got to make the most of it, you know, but you know, the fact that we didn't have that for so long, you know, and all of us at one point or another, I'm sure we're sitting home like, so when am I ever going to see this person again or that person again?
Yeah, you're right.
Like you have those moments, especially as everything was breaking down in the beginning and like everything's shutting down and it's like, don't leave your house, shelter in place. It's like, how long is this going to go on for? You know, so like now the opportunity, and I think we're seeing this in the live music scene in particular, everybody now in 2022 is out playing shows.
Yeah.
2021, people were easing back in. I think a lot of people are still hesitant to go out and be among people like that. But now I can tell you trying to book shows right now, like I'm looking at 2023 at this point.
You got to, man.
I'm not even like we might do one or two more things here in 22, but I really want to reload for 23 and really set that off right because trying to get dates like, oh, I might have a random Tuesday for you. It's like, but it's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to bring people out like,
no.
You know, on a Friday or Saturday. You might get lucky. But.
Yeah. Speaking to that, I do appreciate the connection of shows now.
Yeah.
Like how to connect with people through shows. Like, because it was like, trying to come up with live shows on my phone was not the same as trying to come up with a live show set for an audience, a live audience. Yeah. And I miss like venues. I miss performing at a like rapid rate because I was like, wow, I want to perform these songs, but I have no venue to perform them at because the venue was like, you have to have your vaccine card.
Right.
I had people that was fans didn't believe in vaccine card. It was just a whole debate. Like, should I get the Pfizer? Should I get the Johnson & Johnson?
Right.
Should I not get a vaccine? Should I get a vaccine? So it was like, you know, how do you throw a show if you got half your fan base is like, nah, we don't believe in that. We're not gonna do that. It's mandatory. Nah, I'm good. So you had to find venues who didn't do it, and I was like, my main venue was like, no, we have to do COVID vaccines.
Yeah.
And so I missed the connection of like the shows and how it felt to be shows. So that's why I was grateful for last night.
Yeah. But you'd have like, you know, half the people wouldn't go because they were requiring vaccines. And then the other half wouldn't go to venues that were not requiring vaccines.
Exactly.
You were never getting your full crowd out.
No
matter what. And
it
was so contentious, you know, for a while there to where it's like, you know, you really don't know how to handle it. You don't know what to communicate. It's just like, do what you feel is best for you. You know, like as a promoter, it's just like, we worked with venues requiring, we worked with venues not requiring. The one, you know, when we would post like, hey, on Instagram, like, hey, you know, bring your Vax card because we're working with a venue that's requiring it. You would see these people coming out of the woodwork who had never even heard of Nashville, I've never been to one of our shows, whatever, like coming out and just like ripping into us in the comment sections. We're going to make you go broke. No. Wow. It's just like, how are you going to make me go broke? You didn't buy a ticket anyway, and you weren't going to, you know? And it's just like, you just have to, like, it was so tricky to navigate that whole time as a promoter because it's like half the places are requiring, half the places aren't. We want good relationships with all these venues. Like, so we're just going to defer to the venue, you know, like that was our thing. It's just like, okay, like, there were certain places, you know, I don't think they'd mind me saying this, like Cobra wasn't requiring. So it's like, all right, you know, we just omit it from the flyer because they're not requiring. Nobody asked any questions, then, you know.
I'm sure they racked up too that era, you know, because, you know, that was like one of the only ones, not on the east side too.
Right.
Not throwing but not accept, requiring vaccine cards.
Yeah. But you just you just go with what the venue is.
That's it.
If they're requiring it, you just put it on the flyer. If people ask questions, you tell them the truth, which is they're requiring it.
Yeah.
And people can make the choice from there.
That's true. Yeah. I had to deal with that too. Like, cause I was doing hip hop shows for like once a month at the East Room.
Yeah.
And then we came to that pause where it's like, all right, vaccine requirements. And it was like one time I was like, I'm sure they'd be all right. I'm sure they'd be cordial with it. And that was like, no can do. Came and do it. And I was like, I don't want to set I don't want to rub them the wrong way by not respecting their policies.
Yeah.
So I had to, navigate that. But, it all turned out to be for the best,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all about respecting the policies. It's at the end of the day, you're working in a community with a lot of other people who have varying viewpoints on things and varying policies on how they handle things.
Yeah. It's all like mostly all politics too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how we navigate the city and stuff like that. It's mostly politics.
Yeah. You just be a good citizen.
Yeah.
Be a good citizen and do what you need to do to build community, and push your platform forward so you can build more community with that platform. I mean, and that means reaching out and reaching across aisles to different people and bringing them together.
Come on, across aisles, man. You said it.
And I feel like, especially in 2020, that was a very challenging thing for a lot of us to keep in mind.
Yeah.
With all the unrest in the world, with COVID, with all the social justice issues that were arising, like it was so hard to keep that in mind that like, hey, we're better working together, even though, half of society wants to tear each other apart right now. Yeah. We're always better working together.
Exactly.
And it's just, I feel like, now in 2022, things have kind of leveled off. Yeah. It's not as hot button and polarizing in the media, or maybe just fewer people are paying attention to the mainstream media, which I think is a fantastic thing if that's the case.
Right.
I haven't watched the news since. I've never really watched the news, but I've made a conscious effort not to watch the news for like the past decade.
I got that perspective from watching my grandparents watch the news. And how fearful they became watching the news, and how, some things on the news you need to know. Like if you got a serial killer next door, you need to know that stuff. But I feel like that information would get to me somehow, some way, without watching a tube. Yeah. It tells me like be fear-mongered, to be fear-mongered. But just watching them being so cautious about every single thing, and I'm like, some of these things you really have to test it out yourself in reality and in the public and in society. You can't just be trusting a talking head, which is saying the same thing these other talking heads are doing from these other news channels. And some of the, news is great when it comes to like, what's going on in your community, your voting and stuff like that. But some of the other things like, world news is kind of like propaganda, propagandized. So it's like we don't get the full truth. We get it filtered through a bunch of filters. And by the time it gets to us, it's like, be scared. Be fearful of this. Be fearful of your neighbor. And that's why I feel like we don't talk to neighbors. That's one of the reasons we don't talk to our neighbors, our community. When you said reach across the aisle, that hit me because that's what we learned to do in COVID. But that's what we need to start exercising and practicing, like reaching across the aisle for connection.
Yeah. I think going outside, talking to people is very helpful. Minimizing the negative, the fear mongering in your life, and like, I'm not going to lie. Especially in 2020, I unfollowed a lot of people on social media who were just constant, pumping this fear, pumping this conspiracy stuff or whatever. It's just like, it's not mentally healthy.
No.
It's not spiritually healthy to continue to consume that kind of content.
It's a diet. Like your brain, you have a mental diet, a physical diet, a spiritual diet.
Yeah.
And even a visual diet and an audio diet as well when it comes to music. So I make sure I'm aware of all those diets that I get, or I call it livids. Yeah. Not a diet because I'm not dying, but a livid where you like, okay, the music I listen to, is it good for me?
Right.
The visuals where I'm accepting every day. Like Instagram, I unfollow a lot of people too because I wanted a certain type of timeline that feeds me. That feeds my mental, feeds my spiritual. Yeah, they puts me on like new techniques how to meditate, new techniques how to breathe better. Yeah, this how to cook better, how to be more healthy.
You're creating your environment.
Creating my environment. Yeah, basically and I want my palette to be a certain way.
Yeah.
You know?
And visual diet's increasingly important with the nature of the internet, Web3, social media. And like, the one thing I've never understood, like sometimes it'll be like graphic video. Why would you ever click that to watch it? It's not going to be something that makes you feel good.
Asking for it.
You're asking for, like, hey, this person got trampled. Like, here's the video. Like, why? No. First of all, why is any news network putting that out? Why is any person pulling out their smartphone to record it?
Yeah.
And then why do people go click on that? Like, I don't understand, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important to create your environment because your environment's one of the factors of success.
Facts.
Right? And your environment is everything around you. It's not just what's in the room, but it's what's on the technological platforms that you choose to employ in your everyday life, whether that's business or personal. You know, for me, it's following a lot of artists, following a lot of the podcasts, you know, that I listen to, which are all in this vein of actual conversations about society and how we can do it better. You know, like, there's none of this negative stuff. Like, even my sister would watch the news every night back, you know, 10, 12 years ago. And she's like, I stopped watching the news. She's like, I can't take it anymore. But when she would, and I'd be over their house, oh, that's horrible. Oh, and I'd be like, well, why don't you shut it off? Finally, she listened to me. Love you, Joel.
Yeah, because you're causing anxiety. You start to feel like, why I got so much anxiety lately?
Yeah.
You be like, why do I have so much like fear?
Yeah.
Why am I so like being like, you know, sensitive to my, you know, to certain things?
Yeah.
Because you're training your brain to be anxious.
Yeah.
You're training your brain to be more feared.
Yeah.
You know, or more doubtful about yourself.
Yeah.
So when you feel these things, it's like, and I lost my phone. What happened? I lost my phone like maybe 2 months back for like 2 weeks. And no, it actually broke. Oh, my bad. I ran over it. Something like happened to like some crazy weird thing, and then I didn't have a phone for like 2 weeks, so I couldn't be on social media like that.
Yeah,
I couldn't reach the people on social media or whatever. I couldn't look at my timeline, so that kind of helped me reprogram my brain to meditate in the morning.
Yeah,
have a regimen, a ritual when I wake up.
Yeah,
you know, positive affirmations and stuff like that. So yeah,
it's amazing what disconnection will do for you. You know, I had a chance to do that. You know, up north, I went back home August,
like a month, September.
Right? Yeah, I was up there for a month, and the tail end of that trip was the beach.
Yeah,
and it's like, it's the Cape May Caper. Every year we do it. We rent a house, and it's just 4 days of just nonstop, just debauchery. But I make a point, like, these 4 days I am not working. I like, unless there is an absolute emergency with a client, I am not doing anything.
Yeah.
I let everyone know, like, this is the 4 days I get here at the beach. Like, respectfully, leave me alone. And I like that, and just being by the ocean, being among all these old friends, like, and some newer friends too, like, it just resets you, you know, to like strip away all this noise out here and like just get in touch with that good energy, get in touch with yourself again, you know, aside from all of this, aside from the bright lights and the hustle, like, there's a person at the core there that needs some tending to once in a while. And an experience like that does it. And that's something this year, like, I've become a major proponent of protecting your energy, you know, not just from the news cycle, but
boundaries. Create boundaries.
Setting boundaries.
I'm learning that too. This past 2 years.
Yeah. You know, just like not letting certain energies in the door to a degree. Like, you're always going to have interactions, you know, that aren't ideal, right? But like minimizing those and understanding where they're coming from. And sometimes you got to limit your exposure to certain people. Sometimes you got to cut certain people off. You know, you don't want to have to do that, but like, you got to protect your energy to show up the best for yourself, so then you can go show up for everything that your sphere of influence, within your sphere of influence, you know, because there have definitely been times where like I'd let that bad energy in and it was negatively affecting the platform, how I showed up for the platform, how I showed up for myself. And like, it's remarkable because I really like did a lot of spring cleaning this year. Once I did that, how much has changed for UMC, how much has changed for the show. Like, we're just at the listening room with Nash Live. Like, there's been so much more opportunity. And it comes from cutting out that bad energy.
Yes.
And once you do that, like it's hard to do because like you want to be a loyal person in some aspects,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but it's like sometimes you just get to a point where you've got to do what's best for you.
You got to level up.
You know, whether that's a relationship, family, business relationship,
come
like
on.
sometimes you just got to realize like it's hurting more than it's helping,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And
yeah.
you know, I think it's another thing that this whole time period has taught us here is like protect your energy and understand what you're letting in, whether, you know, it's another person or, you know, just media or whatever, and filter it.
Mm-hmm.
Filter it. Like we live in this world of excess, you know. I was saying for years, like we don't know how to handle all this technology. I think we're starting to get a grip on it though.
A little bit, like as a human race, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're still using it for bad, and like more so than good. And but I do want to go back to like, self-respect. I think like you said, protecting your energy comes from like self-care, self-love, because you respect yourself more. So therefore, you're more aware of what surrounds you and what you take in.
Yeah.
You know, when you caring for yourself, I do self-care days like once a week.
Yeah.
I don't care what's going on. Get a pedicure, manicure, massage, whatever it is. Listen to music, go grounding, go to a cabin, whatever I have to do. I do a self-care day. That way I'm not like trapped in this matrix and not realizing who I am no more, or I'm protecting my energy, as you say.
Yeah.
And I find out more about myself too in that process.
Yeah.
And that's helping me become a better person to my family. Because if you're not a good person to you, how you gonna show up for your family members, your friends, your platform, your brand, your music, whatever you're working on? How you gonna show up at their full potential if you're not like exercising self-care,
right,
self-love, self-protection?
And I think a lot of it comes down to you kind of know intrinsically what's right.
Yeah.
You know, it's intuition. And like understanding how to listen to your intuition is very powerful. And it takes time and it takes practice. Like this whole idea of intuition to me, right before I moved to Nashville, I started, you know, finally realizing like, oh, maybe I should listen to that. Maybe this stuff people say about intuition is not BS and I should listen to it, you know, and like you learn to fine tune your connection with your own intuition. And as you do that, you start realizing what's right for you more quickly. You start realizing what's not right for you more quickly.
Real
and you can
easy.
make better decisions and find more opportunities in life in general that are aligned with you and who you are. And it's all about coming into better alignment. I saw somebody I follow on Instagram, I forget who, posted something yesterday to their story. Like, if you lose something by speaking your truth, you're not losing anything. You're just becoming more aligned.
Come on, you're gaining more so.
Yeah,
you're gaining yourself.
And that's the thing. Addition by subtraction is a real thing.
Yeah.
It is a real thing. And like, again, you know.
Oof, addition by subtraction, I like that.
But we recovering people pleasers, like, you know, we feel bad by subtracting. We feel bad for the other person, no matter how they're treating us. You know, we feel bad for leaving a situation, no matter how it's not working for us.
Come on, man.
And
talk about it.
You have to get past that. Like, you have to learn what good selfish is. And there is a difference between good selfish and bad selfish. Good selfish is preserving yourself, showing care for yourself so that you can show up and pour from a cup with something in it.
Come on, man. Talk about it, because that's what was my main problem like the last 3 years is like pouring it into somebody else's cup and my cup be like almost empty. And then it's like, I'm an empath too. So it's easy to attract narcissistic people. Like, okay.
Don't I know it? Don't I know
it's easy, like, it's a story of my life. So I was like, okay, I could track. But I'm thinking these people are good for me. I'm thinking these people are like my ride or dies. Like, the people, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the loved ones, you know, and I still love them, but I love them from a distance now. But it's more like, I got to let you go with love. Because it's not good for me. You're not good for me.
Yeah.
I'm empty. I'm drained every day because I have to fill your cup.
Right.
And I'm not getting that same reciprocation. So,
and how they respond to that is how they respond to it.
Yeah.
You know, because we can internalize the response too.
Yep.
You know, but like, it's up to them to choose how they, you know, how they take it. And if you're dealing with narcissistic people, chances are they're not going to take it well
at all.
But at all. But that's not on you.
No, that's not on you.
You know?
Yeah. You can't be, you can't go from because think about narcissistic people that think they're victims, and really they're the person who's victimizing you.
Yeah.
every time, every day, every time of the moment, especially if you're an empath, because you're naturally attracting these people because they see a hack on you.
Mhm.
Basically, they see some way they can like have control.
Yes.
And that's what the whole premise is like the relationship is based on like, controller and victim,
What can you give me?
What
And
can
once
you
you
give
stop
me?
giving, then I'm done with you.
And yeah,
That's when the
they,
discard happens.
they literally live off the energy you provide.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's like parasite.
And once that energy changes, once you challenge them,
Yeah.
it's over.
It's over.
Their perception of you is forever changed, maybe ruined.
Yep.
And the relationship is forever changed,
Yep.
maybe ruined, until you decide to put a stop to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is like, I've dealt with this, with relatives. I've dealt with this in prospective relationships where it's been like, okay, like I am setting a boundary now. And then I'm public enemy number freaking one. And it's like, all right. And like the thing is, being empathic people, we then start to think, maybe I'm the narcissist.
Yes.
Maybe I am the
That's
problem.
the goal for the narcissist, is to make you think you're the narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's to get you weak.
Yeah.
It's to get you weak.
And I think creating the boundaries, I know that's what I learned as I get older, is creating no boundaries early.
Mm-hmm.
Like almost like the first 2-3 dates. If I'm doing a relationship, or the first, if it's new friends or whatever, create those boundaries early on. That way it's no discussions, no line across. I mean, it's lines to cross. That way it's like, oh, you can't do that without my consent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or exactly where I stand with that. So if you do that, you're disrespecting me.
Yeah.
So and I know we have that understanding that if you do this across this line, then you know exactly what you're doing, and I know exactly what you're doing.
Right. And I think too, like, being intentional in your relationships goes such a long way, instead of just kind of like letting things slide.
Let it flow. Like, what are we doing?
What are we doing? Or, where is this going? Like, being intentional, like, hey, I'm into this. Are you into this? Like, right off the bat, like, don't
3 months later.
Yeah.
3 months later.
Like, don't give narcissists a chance to play games, because they're going to play games.
Oh, yeah. That's what they do. Yeah.
And then they'll spin it on you. But
exactly.
And again, that's not just romantic relationships. It's family.
Family,
it's like,
man.
Set your boundaries, and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, because if you let them disrespect, it's like a bully. If the bully kicks your ass one day, he's definitely gonna kick your ass the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that.
Until you kick his.
Exactly. And create them boundaries like, no, you can't do this.
Yeah.
Every day, you can't do this.
Yeah.
No more.
What you allow is what will continue.
Come on, man. Come on, you're talking like a true monk.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of research specifically on this area of my life, because I want to stop running into those types of people. So it's like, what am I? But you have to look at that as like, what am I doing to attract this energy?
Come on. And
stop doing the things that are attracting the energy. Like, there's an accountability we all have to take for what comes into our lives, and I think, like, certainly over the past year, 2 years, like, that's been something that's like, oh, well, this is my responsibility to figure out how to get better from here, how to take this information and do better, so the things I didn't like don't happen again, and so the things that I do like happen more often.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, like, you're right. It's like, it gotta be almost like I believe in, like, I don't know, you heard of Joe Dispenza, but he talks about programming yourself.
Yeah.
So I program myself the morning I wake up. As soon as my eyes see the sunlight, maybe when my eyes are closed, but when my eyes see the sunlight, I'm like always saying like positive affirmations, like, I like myself. Today, I expect the best outcome. Because if you don't program yourself early on, the world will program you due to a billboard, news, IG, Facebook, TikTok, your friends.
Yeah.
So you have to set yourself, like, I spend the first hour of the day by myself.
Yeah.
With myself. It's like you said, fine-tune your intuition so you know exactly what to do next.
Yeah. Yeah. And having those dialogues with yourself, like, giving yourself the positive affirmations, but when there's something that needs correcting, like, doing it gently, not coming down too hard on yourself.
Exactly. You can't, man. And discipline. That's what I'm talking about on my own podcast, Black Blood Voices podcast, with Jaffe Judah, my co-host, Big Six, the big speaker. And we talk about discipline as our theme for the season of our podcast. This is like basically talking about, it's different disciplines, right? Everybody has a different discipline. Bruce Lee has a different discipline than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You know what I'm saying? Bar Marley has a different discipline than Kobe. So it's like everybody has their own disciplines. But when you discipline yourself, you become more of yourself.
Yeah.
You be like, oh, this can't slide no more.
Mm-hmm.
Even for yourself, like
Mhm.
I can't eat that type of food no more,
Right.
or I can't listen to that type of music, or I can't be in this type of crowd no more, or with these people no more.
Mhm.
I have different discipline.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to define what that means to you. You know? It's interesting that you mentioned like listening to a certain type of music because like I'm gonna be honest, and I don't want to throw shade, but like when The Weeknd dropped his most Dawn FM,
Yeah.
I loved it because it was in the winter. And like, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of songs on there that are really like self-deprecating, like coming from a place of like the protagonist in a place of extremely low self-worth.
Yeah.
And like I was resonating a lot with that as I was navigating.
Same. I listened to
certain
the album too with the
relationships.
same perspective.
You know, and now it's like half the songs, it's like, oh, this is such a good song, but I can't do it anymore because he's just feeling sorry for himself. But then there's songs like Take My Breath, which is like, it's a banger and I don't care. Less Than Zero, I just think has that really cool like 80s new wave sensibility. And I love it, even though it is probably one of the most glaring examples of that subject matter on the album. Like, it's an incredible album, but it's like my relationship with it has changed as my relationship with myself has changed throughout the year. And I still love it. I still think it's genius. Jim Carrey's voiceover work is magnificent on that album.
I didn't realize, I mean, as I listen to Jim Carrey, I don't even realize it's Jim Carrey because he sounds so different than Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, okay, yeah, Jim Carrey could do this voiceover.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
But it's just, and I just watched The Mask like a day ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like going through his archives. But yeah, it's like, he's super creative.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the whole album is like, if you're changing yourself and then you listen to this music and you was like, oh, I've grown.
Mm-hmm.
You realize how much you've grown when you listen to older music you used to listen to at a different level you was at, you know?
Yeah. Like the song How Do I Make You Love Me?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, like at the beginning of the year, it's like, I've been there. And now I'm like, come on, man. Like, don't worry about making her love you. Love yourself.
Come on. You matured. Come on. You matured out here.
I love the growth. I love the growth. And like, but yeah, like.
Embrace it, yeah.
But back to the other point, it's like, you have to define what that growth means, you know, what it means to you. And it's something different for, like, life is not one size fits all. The techniques, the tactics that you use to better yourself are going to vary from somebody else's. Nice. And there's no right or wrong.
Nope.
You know, and it's like
everything.
Yeah. And like, I've been in situations where like somebody, although well-meaning, is trying to push me really hard in this one direction. I just know it's not for me. Yeah. And now it's like, that's another thing, is being able to identify that, like,
what's for you and what's not for you.
Yeah. Like, that might work for you. That doesn't work for me, you know? And it's like, I respect the difference, you know, as you know, let's respect each other's differences, but it's like, you got to do what's congruent with your values. And just, again, going back to intuition, what feels right.
Yeah. What feels right. And like you said, the intuition part, like, that's why I've been diving into more with the grounding. When I wake up, go grounding, go take your shoes off, put your feet in the grass, be connected with the earth. But the earth and nature will reveal your true self. That's what you are. You are part of, humans are nature. That's why it's called human nature. So we can't forget that we're natural beings. We're organic beings. We're not just the shoes, the computers, you know, and the fashion. You know, we're more than that. We're like literally part of the earth. So, you know, it's good to connect with Mother Earth, you know, and get in tune with yourself and figure out, who am I? Why do I do this? If a thought pops up, a fear, because I know it's hard for a lot of people to meditate. Yeah. Because they got so much going on in their brain. And it ain't that you're ADHD. It's just you have to deal with those thoughts. And it's literally called a train of thought because you're on a track of thoughts. But let one thought slide through like a subway train. It stops. Then it keeps going. And then you deal with that fear, or you deal with that thought. You deal with that that doubt. And you keep moving on to the next thought until you're just, your mind's actually peaceful and silent and you're actually with God present. Yeah. Yeah. The connecting with the earth thing is very powerful. This is why I think you would appreciate my annual Cape May pilgrimage in Jersey, because at the end, after the 4 days of debauchery, we go to Cape May Point State Park, which is the very southern tip of New Jersey, and the sand there. So it's an old like naval base. Like there's landmines in the ocean. You're not supposed to swim in it. But because you can't swim in it, the beach doesn't get as populated during the day as like some of the other beaches in the area. So the sand is like this really coarse, like your feet will come out of there feeling the softest they'll feel all year. What's it called?
Cape May. Yeah. You should come next year. You
Yeah,
should come next year.
I'll come
We rent a
review.
house. Yeah. No, it's a great time. You'll love it.
I bet.
But like, so part of this whole thing started because me and my buddy were bored and we drove all the way down from northern New Jersey all the way to Cape May.
Yeah.
Got out of the car, took a deep breath, and then went home. 16. This was the 16th annual now. And it's become this entire weekend.
Wow.
And it always ends at Cape May Point. And a few years ago, part of it became like, go stand, feet in the ocean, buried under the sand, and set an intention for the next year.
Ooh,
And it's just like this absolute like checkpoint of the year for me now, this moment of recalibration. And it's just like, there's nothing else but the ocean. And like, you're just thinking probably more clearly than you've thought all year. And it's like, okay, what's the one thing? It just kind of comes to me every year, you know, and it's just like, you know, for me this year was, you know, I need to really appreciate the good and let things be good, you know, because that's something that I struggle with. It's like, I'm always waiting for the shoe to drop. You know, I'm always like, okay, how's this going to get fucked up? But it's like, I'm always
expect good things, basically.
Yeah. But like, and let the good be good.
Yeah.
Don't question the good.
Come on. Don't question the good.
Don't question
That's
the
a
good.
t-shirt.
Yeah. That might be a t-shirt.
Don't question the good.
But like, and that's the thing. It's like, you talk about, you know, getting in touch with the earth. Like, that's probably the one time a year, like, I really make the intention to do that. And every single time, like, it started in 2018, right before I moved, I was just not feeling it all day. And like, I just kind of stood there and I'm like, I'm coming back here happier next year, just to myself.
Intentions.
And that was like, and then the next year I told everyone else, like, hey, I did this last year. And look, I came back happier. So we're all setting intentions now.
And that's so important because LA is my thing. Like for that, like Venice Beach, like doing yoga on the beach. Like I did it this year. Like went to LA with my homegirl, shout out to Cat Parks. And she's a yogi now. So we did yoga on the beach and breathe with the waves.
Yeah.
As the waves came in crashing, we breathe, you know, inward, you know, as the waves go out, we breathe out. So it was kind of like almost imitating the nature.
Yeah.
With your own nature. And setting intentions, like that's a main part of like why I went out there, to set intentions, like get perspective on what I'm doing and where I'm at in my career, where I'm at with my life, you know, all that. So
and you need that time away. You need that time out of the weeds. Like, I mean, maybe not always a month, although I do want to do that every year now. Because it, you know, it's just a healthy thing to do. Go fill your cup, step into another part of your life for a little while.
Come on.
You know, like my nieces and nephew are up there. I get to see them a few times a year. Beautiful. You know, like just simple stuff, like even before going to the beach, like taking my niece to Barnes and Noble, taking my nephew. My friend owns a comic store.
Yeah, they love that, I'm sure.
You know, like just running around meeting people's babies, because people have had babies since the pandemic. Like, you know,
man, it's beautiful.
Reconnecting with all these people in different haunts, and like you know, going to work music fest, like. All these things fill my cup so I can come back here and give this my all, you know? And now that's kind of like, it reframed my perspective of like, I need to do that once in a while. If I take 1 month up there, so the 11 I'm here are balls to the wall, and they can be. And like, I still feel this sense of renewal from that, even though we're in mid-October right now. It's like, it's carrying me through, and it will carry you through if you go and intentionally reset and make sure you take little breaks throughout the year. Like it's going to pay dividends, because when you're in it and you're in it and you're in it, you can lose sight of the vision.
Oh, exactly. We were talking about that earlier this week, about basically getting the aerial view of where you're at, so you know how to attack it when you come back to it. Yeah. And not just getting lost in like your vision. You got getting lost in like, oh, what am I doing again? You know, because sometimes I get to that point, I just go so hard. Oh yeah. And I burn myself out. And I'm like, what was I doing again? Where actually am I headed? Yeah,
you get so fixated on one thing that you forget 5 other things.
Yeah, exactly. Especially like running movements like us, we do movements. So UMC is a movement. Quinn Spinn is a part of that movement, and it's like I got movements like Heru, Hill Hop, Foundation Mecca brand, the podcast, Black Blood Voices podcast, different type of B4L. Like I got different movements, so it's kind of like. Sometimes you get lost in just one vision when the vision's bigger and more broader. Yeah. And sometimes you need to focus on everything instead of focus on one thing as far as just seeing the bigger picture.
If you can bring it all under one umbrella too, I think that helps. You know, like Nash Live's under UMC, the Quinn Spinn's under UMC, like it's all under this umbrella. Yeah. And it helps, like, as opposed to having like all these separate little things, you know, because like I've tried that before too, and it didn't work because your attention just gets split. But it's like this feeds this, and this also feeds this, and this is how it all feeds each other. Like, come up with an ecosystem for it all.
We'll vertically integrate.
Yeah, you know, just come up with a way to where one informs the other, to where everything's feeding the overall vision.
Come on.
You know, I think that's really the important thing. And it could be multifaceted. It could have different things involved with it, like a podcast versus an event platform versus a blog. Like all these things are feeding the mission of giving folks like yourself a platform.
Yes.
You know?
I appreciate it too.
And
Gratitude.
well, I appreciate the opportunity to give it, you know, because like we're all fighting the same battle in a way to where we're all creating something from scratch and trying to be heard, trying to build something out of nothing, you know, like out of very humble beginnings, you know. The vast majority of us never come into this industry with, you know, a whole bunch of resources. We just have ideas.
That's it.
And enough to get started.
And then you got to pull from the resources or community. And I feel like you said our voices together are louder.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, that's what it's about, community and shouting together. That way we get heard.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to be coming up on time. We could sit here and talk all day.
Yeah, I know that's easy.
We could sit here and talk straight through the next two interviews I'm doing today. But before we go, I do want to give you a chance to let people know what's on the horizon for you as well. Any new releases, upcoming shows, anything else with the movements happening?
Yeah, man. I got you shows coming up in Atlanta soon. I don't have the dates particularly, but that's my next move. Atlanta, doing a couple shows. Possibly LA. I do got I'm hosting a show with Kojo next Friday. I think Marcus Rose on the bill, May's on the bill, a couple other artists on the bill. So I'll be hosting at the Analog. So y'all come out, you know, and vibe with us. It's gonna be a great time. Kojo Music, she's a phenomenal artist. Also got a Black Blood Voices podcast coming out next year, first season in January, which is we talking about discipline, basically showcasing people that came out of prison and bettered their life, entrepreneurs, people that, you know, came from the street life, turned their lives over to a better outcome, to a positive outcome. And shout out to B4L, that's like Bang for Liberation. Haru's in the studio, we're working on some new stuff, so that should be exciting. And that's going to be dropping 2023. Also, I got an EP coming out soon. Don't have a title yet, like I said. But I got 2 songs down. I'm looking for my 3rd song because I'm doing like a 3-piece. Do something for the women, do something that's for the masses, like a banger, undeniably. And then I'm doing something that make you think or make you feel emotionally. And Foundation Mecca, you know, I'm here to, you know, heal the people.
What's the date of that Analog show?
Analog show, that's next Friday, I believe, October 22nd. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, October 22nd. So yeah, that's gonna be live.
Absolutely, and that's a beautiful venue.
Yeah, man, beautiful. I always manifested like I'm gonna be in this venue one day. I'm gonna perform in this venue, and I got to do it.
Yeah, I got to email them back. I did send them an email about booking some stuff next year,
so
I got to follow
beautiful.
up.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful room, and it sounds great. The lighting, as a photographer, chef's kiss.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then y'all, man, Ian got some stuff about to release for some sync stuff. Got a bunch of sync stuff coming up. So sync and licensing for people who don't know, but that's going well as well. So that's should be nice. Yeah.
So if people want to find you online, where can they learn about all the things?
IG, Instagram, official Foundation Mecca, the Real Foundation on TikTok, or just Foundation Mecca, and then everywhere else, every streaming platform, including Audius, which is a decentralized platform for music, kind of like Spotify but for Web3. Foundation Mecca, and then Heru hip hop IG, and Heru Heru on every other platform streaming wise.
We will do this many times in the future.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
Each one will be about 2 hours long.
yeah, I love it.
There's always plenty to talk about with Foundation Mecca, and there's always plenty to listen to here on the Quinn Spinn. 2 N's in Quinn, 2 N's in Spin. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, and more. Also at undergroundmusiccollective.com. That is our central hub for all things independent music, creativity, community, and more. Learn about us on all the socials, as well as on the UMC 20 playlist. You have 20 fresh tracks every week, and the latest episode of the Quinn Spinn every week as a bonus track. NashLive.live. We have some shows we're planning, like I said on this episode, really gearing up for 2023, but we're not going to leave you here in 2022 without at least a parting shot or two. So follow Nash Live at Nash Live shows on all the socials, namely Instagram. That's really the only one I post on because Facebook's pointless. Revel 9's All I've Become is our closing theme song, as well as our opening theme song, The End instead of the Beginning, and it's going to take us out right now.
Now